Good morning. This is On Imagination with the Healing Garden. Thank you so much for joining me. This is Shifting Perspectives. I'm definitely settling into Triadic healing with part 2, and we're talking about human connection. I've been exploring the concept of connection for almost close to 20 years now. I especially ran into it during couples therapy and anything to do with relationships. They keep coming back to connection. There is Dr. Gottman is currently the leader in this, called the Gottman Institute, and he came up with something called bids for connection. I absolutely love talking on bids for connection. And one of the most common things we think about when we hear the concept of connection is there's a lot of what we say and then there's what we mean. And that's really it. A lot of our language is what we say is not what we mean. And this creates a mass miscommunication throughout the entire world because a lot of people are not saying what they mean. So there's what we say and then there's what we mean. And because we're not saying what we actually mean, no one's being understood. And in the long run, what that does is it literally severs the ability to communicate with people. It severs the connection. Because if you're not saying what you mean, you're not making a connection. And one of the most common examples of this is the concept of time. A child will say, I just want more time with you. And the parent who's overworked, exhausted, tired, beaten down, who just spent 2 hours with the child, will say, I just spent time with you. And the child will repeat, yeah, but I want to spend time with you. Now, we figured this out, that there was a miscommunication. So we changed it to quality time. But we're still not defining what it is we actually mean. When you hear your child or your partner say or complain that they want to spend time with you or that they want to spend quality time, what they are really doing is asking for your connection. The problem is most people don't know how to do this. Human connection is sharing. It is sharing your interests. It is sharing your love. It is sharing your story. It is sharing your vulnerability. And it is sharing your thoughts, opinions, your feelings. Sharing your feelings. These are people who seek your dreams. They are people who seek out your wishes. They are people who seek out how you feel. This is what we do at the end of every day when we ask somebody we love, how was your day? What we're actually asking, that's another thing where we're not saying what we mean. They want to know what your feelings are, what your vulnerabilities are. And that's it right there. They want to know what your vulnerabilities are. When we first fall in love with somebody, we are connecting on our vulnerabilities. We are actually sharing our weak parts, or we are sharing our emotions, our feelings. And it's through that sharing of those feelings and the vulnerability that we make a human connection at all. But this is the problem. We're abused. So we associate it's not safe to be vulnerable. Oh my good God, that is probably the most popular fear that we all share. And that's it. We share this fear, which means we can connect on this fear. So this is a really, really wonderful fear where it actually works to our advantage because we all understand it. It is terrifying to be vulnerable with somebody. No one wants to do it because the risk to reward ratio is completely out of balance. You want me to be vulnerable for what? What am I going to get out of it aside from more pain? It's the one thing we all absolutely can relate to. Connection is relatability. And the only way we can relate to somebody is through our feelings, through our commonalities. And ironically, the one thing that we all have in common is our pain and our suffering. Now, you could argue then that, oh, well, that's trauma bonding. But there's another aspect to this, sadness, that it is a human connection. Being frustrated over the same thing that your partner is frustrated on. And this is how it works. When you meet somebody, you have your own perspective. Let's assume for a minute that everybody is healthy. Everyone is balanced, everyone's aligned. And so you have your perspective, and it's protected, it's safe, it's healthy, it's whole. There's no contamination, there's no mental behaviors. It's just you and your perspective. And the world is great. And you have somebody over there who feels their own perspective, who has their own perspective. Now, you interact every day. You talk to people, you bring in information, and you have this process of the circle of trust where you basically allow somebody to come in. And as you allow them access to you, you are supposed to put them through a series of very brief trial and errors to see how the person fares with trust. Give them a level 1 vulnerability and watch how they handle it. If they pass, elevate them to a level 2 vulnerability. I talk about this later. And keep elevating them. Level 3 vulnerability. It's only when we see how they handle levels 1, 2, and 3 vulnerability that you should be giving them level 4 and level 5 vulnerabilities. Now, for every vulnerability you give them, by the way, these are bids for connection. Every time you give them that vulnerability, in addition, you can give them a little bit of trust, but don't give them all the trust. And that's where all of us get this wrong. Almost all of us. We either give zero trust, which makes us highly suspicious, highly doubtful. We trust no one. Or we hand them all the trust, a level 10 trust, before they've even proven they can handle levels 1, 2, or 3. So we're either over trusting or we're not trusting at all. And there's supposed to be that bid for connection where you connect and it elevates. And it takes time. It takes patience because people don't know that they can trust. People don't feel vulnerable or they refuse to feel vulnerable. So it takes a long time for a person to finally get around to opening up and allowing someone to step in and share that vulnerability with them. So it takes time. And our expectations are way too high on how long it takes someone to break down their defenses and allow us to come in. So we're impatient. We're putting expectations, pressure. It's the woman who expects to be proposed to within 2 years. It's the man who expects a woman to provide ABC for them emotionally or sexually before she's ready. It's all these societal expectations because you don't want to wait. And unfortunately, this is something that takes time. And it's not really unfortunately. There is a process. And with that patience, with that level of connection over time, it nourishes this enriched connection that is almost extinct today. People don't see it. People are completely unaware of it. One of my favorite things that I realized when I was going through my own evolution of growth was that there are new emotions introduced at every stage of growth. There are emotions that you don't get to experience until you reach a certain level of emotional and mental growth. So if you never get to level 6, you're not going to feel certain emotions. If you don't get to level 7 or 8, you're not going to feel certain emotions. These are emotions that come to you as you grow. When you think of a child, the child is 1 or 2 years old. The child is not going to feel things like jealousy yet. They're not going to understand it. They're going to feel other emotions. They're going to feel things that mirror the jealousy. Once they get around 2, 3 years old, that's when jealousy comes in and they're going to feel other emotions. It's an evolutional process. But we all stall out usually around 3 or 4. Some of us get to 6 and 7. And it's not until we get to those that, oh, there's new emotions here. We're feeling new things. And it's not until you get to that point that you start to realize what we've been denying ourselves because we fail to connect, we fail to grow, we fail to allow that vulnerability. With Dr. Gottman's Bids for Connection, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful program. What he offers couples, what he offers everybody, and this is not just between a man and a wife. This is not just between romantic or sexual partners. This is every social interaction. This is between strangers. This is anytime you have person A interacting with person B, no matter the age, gender, relationship, anything. This is it. A bid for a connection is when somebody reaches out to connect with somebody. And it's something as simple as they give you a cup of coffee. They say hello. They introduce themselves. We're going to just take the introduction because everyone's been here. The introduction. You're at a party or you're at an event. You see someone across the room and you want to talk to them. Very, very simple. You just want to talk to them. Maybe they vibrate right. Maybe they just feel good. Maybe they look great. Maybe you're attracted to them. Maybe there's something about their quirks that you just love and you're excited and you're eager. They have evoked an emotional and a feeling response inside of you. So you go toward this person to approach them. The fact that you are even making eye contact is a bid for connection. So let's pretend we're at the bar and you get that person that you're interested in a flash, just a glance. You make eye contact. The bid for connection has been made. Now, there are only 3 options for a response. Every time, each and every bid for connection, no matter what, there's only 3 options. The person who receives the bid can reply with a positive, they can reply with a negative, or they can go ignore. Now, the positive, when a positive connection is made, they give you the bid, eye contact is made, there's the bid, you make the eye contact. Let's say the person smiles, positive. Now, that's going to give you the reassurance that we can now elevate this to the second bid for connection. So the person then gets up and approaches you at the bar. Now, that's the second bid for connection. When they make that next bid where they're right next to you now, hi, I want to talk to you. Now you're on to your third. Does the person pull away? Do they give you their shoulder? Or do they turn toward you and they shake your hand and they greet you with a smile? Positive or negative? The negative is the downright rudeness, or it's the anger, or it's the aggression, or it's the eye roll, or it's the, oh, wow, yeah, no. Right there, we have the negative, we receive the negative, and it shuts us down and we go, okay, so that was a botched attempt. But what if they ignore you? When you make that eye contact, and it's like they don't even see you. Now we enter confusion. Did they receive the message? Do I try again? Are they ignoring me on purpose because they're actually not wanting to engage, but they don't want to be rude? Now we're guessing. So we make another bid for a connection. And they continue to not see it. So now you're thinking, okay, do I have to get aggressive? Do I have to be more assertive? So you might get up and walk over and say, excuse me. Now let's say that they're ignoring you. So they'll just pretend they don't hear you. You're tapping on their shoulder or you're, excuse me. And it's absolutely disheartening. Now, that's the silent treatment. And we do that to our spouses. We do that to our children. We do that all the time to the people we love the most. If you want to nourish a relationship, positive responses to even the smallest bid for connection is the road back. No matter what, no matter where you are, positive to a bid for a connection is going to nourish the connection between you. Respond positively. It could be something simple as their hand on the small of your back. It could be something simple as them giving you a massage, them getting you something, them saying hello. It could be anything. Look for it. Be aware of it. Be mindful. Look for them. A lot of people are just not aware that people are making bids for connections. And suddenly their partner is going, well, I did this. I acknowledged you here. I did this. I reached for you here. And you turned away. You shrugged me off. You gave me the cold shoulder. The cold shoulder is a death sentence. The flip side of all that is the negative, which is not as destructive as ignoring. The silent bid for connection, ignoring or that silence is actually the most catastrophic when it comes to a relationship. So if your partner is making bids for connection, if your child is reaching out and making bids for connection and you're ignoring them, that is the fastest way to ruin any relationship. But we become complacent with our loved ones. We become accustomed to them. There's a song written by Lerner and Lowe from My Fair Lady called I've grown accustomed to her face. And it was inspired by the musician's wife. She came in, dropped off some tea while he was working on the score to My Fair Lady, and she walked away. And he didn't even look up to acknowledge her and say thank you. And it wasn't until he had it in his hand while he was writing the song, and he went, oh my God, I have grown accustomed to her. And he realized that he was so used to his wife's presence that he was taking advantage of it just by not acknowledging it. It is so important to be grateful, show appreciation for your partner every single day, multiple times a day. This is exactly how I revived my relationship back from the grave up again, is total appreciation. Once in the morning, once in the evening, and once in the middle of the afternoon. Just a pause of, I appreciate you. Every time we have a conversation, I thank him for the conversation. I thank him for his time. It's absolutely pausing, because appreciation, gratitude is the solid acknowledgement to your partner or your loved one or your child that I see you. I have seen what you have done here, the time you have given me, and I appreciate it. It is absolutely the most beautiful thing you can do for your relationship, is infuse it with appreciation, at least in the morning, at least in the evening, and one time in the afternoon. Just spat of the day. It's such a huge deal. You're making a bid for a connection. You have connected. Acknowledge it and thank them. Now, the flip side of that is that negativity. This is where a person will fight and you've lost connection. So what happens is once you've fused and you've come together on that meeting of minds, and that is exactly what this is. It is a meeting of minds. You are now both finding that you have like perspectives. There's having like perspectives, and this is my most favorite thing about relationships. There's having the like relationship, the like perspective side by side, and then realizing that together you form your own unique perspective together. This is what being a couple is when you create a world where you have your own private perspective between the two of you. It is your shared perspective. Absolutely a beautiful sacred thing. It is the core of all relationships, is when you share the same perspective. This is where you go and experience things together. You do things together. You enjoy vacations or holidays together. You are adding to the shared perspective. This person goes off and does something, you go off and do your own thing. Now you're not sharing their perspective, which is fine. You also need to be building your own individual perspective. And then you come back and you nurture that shared perspective. The relationship becomes so solid that you don't need anything else. You've got that shared perspective. It is solid. Now, what happens is when you have a misunderstanding, when someone makes a bid for a connection or there's an argument or a conflict, the shared perspective is broken. You are no longer aligned. You lose the connection. The connection is the shared perspective. You no longer see eye to eye. Suddenly there's a conflict, there's confusion. You don't understand each other, and it splits. Now, if you are infused to this person intimately as a partner, you're going to feel this lack of alignment suddenly, and it's going to cause significant pain. It's going to cause discomfort. And this is where, okay, you lose the connection, and everyone loses the connection. Everyone says, talk, communicate, get the connection back, communicate. The problem is we're not told what or how to communicate. And this is where it downgrades to when you lose the connection up here with that shared perspective, go back to the feelings. I feel, and this is why therapists tell you to use I feel statements. It's because you've lost the connection up here. So you go back to the feelings, because it's in the feelings, in our vulnerability, that we reconnect again. That's how we came together to begin with. We shared our vulnerabilities. These are my dreams. These are my wishes. These are my desires. These are my loves. This is my pain. This is who I am. This is my feeling. You are speaking from your love system. When you compare love systems, you find out that they're also suffering from the same problem. Even though your perspectives are different or your misunderstandings are different, your feelings are the same. And that's where you reconnect. Oh, you feel the same way I feel. It was the most extraordinary thing when I was repairing my relationship, is learning that he and I shared the same feelings, even though our perspectives were very different. It was absolutely amazing to rewatch this rebuild, putting it together through, this is how I feel. This is how I feel. Oh, it's the same. Well, this is how I feel. Well, this is how I feel. Oh, I understand that now. And we literally built it back up off of a process of comparing vulnerabilities and feelings until we finally were back on the same perspective. The perspective was restored. We are back to having our own private little shared perspective, that little personal world between he and I, where it's just about how we both see the world when we are together. Now, he has his network, I have mine. We're individuals, and we share this perspective together. And it all is built off of this vulnerability, the shared feelings, the shared interest, shared dreams, shared love. So when you have a relationship, a person, and you're seeking out that human connection, when your child says, I want to spend more time with you, what they're looking for is your vulnerability. Now, the big problem that I have with my children, that most people have with their children, is how do you connect your vulnerability to a 5-year-old? How do you see eye to eye with a 5-year-old? Now you're looking at this massive perspective gap where your child might be a perspective 2, but you're a perspective 6 or a perspective 7. So how does a perspective 7 connect with a perspective 2? And this is where most of us are absolutely clueless because the gap is just way too vast. And it comes back to the feelings. Keep it simple. And talk in words that they are going to understand. In a way of, how did this scenario make you feel? What do you like? Talk about your interests, talk about your likes, compare your likes. And one thing that was huge was when I was a child was my mother sewing or my mother doing something tactile, whether it be knitting or cross stitching. And I could physically see what she was doing. And I was physically engaged with it because I wanted to do it. So we would do it together and she would be able to teach me. So if you build it, and this is where I'm huge with parents or teachers, teachers or parents. This is it right here, is become a teacher for your child. Become okay, this is your interest. I'm going to teach you how to do this. Make sure you both want to do it. Make sure it's something you both enjoy. Do not force your interests onto your child. But if there is something your child wants to learn, or better yet, this is my favorite, if your child is learning something, decide to learn with them, whether it be a video game, anything. So now you have that common interest, that common thing that you do together. And this is the beautiful thing. When you start becoming vulnerable with an interest, that is opening the door so the child will feel that they can talk to you and be vulnerable about something serious. You cannot expect your child to talk to you about drugs, sex, trauma, anything, if you're not talking about the safe topics. No human being will ever talk to anybody unless and until they can talk about the simple, casual, safe stuff first. Even therapists, you cannot do it. It's just ingrained into because of that trust system. You have to go through the first level of trust, the second level of trust, the third level of trust. And those first few levels of trust all completely revolve around our ability to show people that we are psychologically safe with the simple things, with the easy things. You want to build a solid relationship with your teenager? Start when they're 2 years old. Do something together that you both love. The child loves to paint, you paint. The child loves to color, you color. The child loves to play games, you play games. You guys want to watch a movie together? Watch a movie together. Absolutely spend time with each other. And then from there, move on to a teaching. Okay, let's go ahead and discuss about this. Absolutely open it. It's safe, it's simple. Keep it safe, keep it simple. And you'll see later when they'll feel comfortable because they're familiar with the space. They will be familiar with the bid for connection. When somebody approaches you and they're giving you bids for connection, you can Google this, bid for connection, and you can see the lists of examples of bids for connection. You can also take a look at the Gottman Institute, absolutely phenomenal program. I'm part of their newsletter, so I get I get something from their inbox where I get basically assignments and tasks. It's absolutely beautiful what I get from them. So the Gottman Institute, anything about making bid for connection, what those look like, that's huge. And understand that what you're doing is you are creating a shared perspective with whoever it is you're with, whether it be your child, whether it be your partner, or even a coworker. It is a shared perspective that you seek. And to get that shared perspective, it's built off of bids for connection, sharing vulnerability, simple, safe vulnerabilities. There's safe vulnerabilities and then there's dangerous vulnerabilities. Now, in the dating scene, when you look at online dating especially, there is level 10 vulnerabilities, and everyone on the dating sites, almost everyone, has got this so out of order. I'm on a dating site. I'm right here. Speed dating does this. Let's just immediately jump to level 10. Here's a dick pic. And it's absolutely out of order. It's you've just skipped 1 through level 9 because we're on a dating app. It immediately puts it over to this excessive, too much, too soon. You don't even know the person's last name. It's confusing. And if you're looking for a one-night stand, it's great. But if you're looking for a human connection, if you're looking for something deeper, it's absolutely destroying the trust process, the vulnerability process, and you're not connecting. But we don't know that. We're not aware of it. So there's a lot of people who seek that human connection. So they go onto dating sites because they're lonely. They have societal deprivation. Social deprivation is the killer of all safety because you're so socially deprived. You are so lonely that you will grab whatever's the first thing along that gives you even the most recognition. If you have social deprivation, you really need to do some mental work. You should not be dating. If you have social deprivation, the problem is not a lack of a partner. The problem is a lack of knowing who you are. And when we are lonely, it's actually us not being connected to ourselves. While we're making all of these human connections to other people, you also have to make a human connection to yourself. And if you're not nurturing your own human connection, oh, you're going to feel lonely. You're going to feel rejected. You're going to feel abandoned because you have abandoned your own human connection. Connecting with yourself looks like knowing what your interests are, knowing what your vulnerabilities are. It's all covered in Triadic healing. That's all I do. This is why this is part 2 of Triadic healing. Is at this point, if you've completed Triadic healing part 1, you've already got the foundation set. So you're ready for the relationship social part. But if you haven't done it, you're not going to have everything in place that you need to proceed with part 2 because you've missed the foundation. And that's what's happening with a lot of people is they don't have the foundation to their ethics or their identity. Oh, but they're putting themselves on a dating site and they're looking for people and they're out of order. They don't understand trust, vulnerability, connection. And they're they're in such severe social deprivation that they're grabbing anything and everyone. And then 3 months later, they find out they're in this horrific abusive situation with another narcissist and they don't understand why. And they were just lonely and they're confused. And now they have trauma, more trauma on top of the social deprivation, and they still have not connected. So they'll unplug from that relationship, plug into a different one. But the problem is you. The problem is you not doing the mental work. So this person will plug into whatever. And it's the same situation, different cast, different players, same script, same thing over and over again. Because we're not learning how to have human connection on any kind of a level. And it's the same repeated process over and over. So human connection is shared perspective. Shared perspective is only achieved through sharing vulnerabilities, your fears, your strengths, your desires, your dreams, your wants, your wishes. It is the essence of knowing who you are and giving that to other people so they know who you are. It's absolute vulnerability so they can relate to you because it's in our vulnerabilities that we can relate. Through those relations, through that relatability, we form a shared perspective. Through that shared perspective, we develop a very healthy, nurturing relationship based on shared vulnerabilities and trust. And the trust is vital because you don't want to be giving your vulnerabilities to somebody who's going to be careless and sloppy with them because of their own mental problems. That's where they project onto your vulnerabilities or they use them as a weapon against you. If you love shit like this, go ahead and like, subscribe, comment below, and let me know if there's any part of the video that resonated with you. Also, grow the garden. Go ahead and donate. There is a link below. Grab that Linktree account and you'll see the entire menu from the garden. Thank you so much, and may the kindest of words always find you.